Okay, today we're going to give you the information you need to pass the Part 107 exam, specifically the part of the content associated with remote ID. Remote ID is the ability of a drone in flight to provide identification and location information that can be received by other parties. So if you have a standard remote ID, then which is built into the system, then it includes the ID of the drone location, altitude, velocity, where is the control station, how high is the control station, time marks, and emergency stats. Now, if your drone does not have a built-in remote ID capability, then you need to attach a add-on module to meet the requirements for remote ID. That module will provide remote ID capability through that module attached to the drone. It is limited to visual line of sight operations. From takeoff to shutdown, it will broadcast the ID, location, altitude, drone velocity, takeoff location and elevation, and time mark. Understand that the built-in one give information on the location of the base station. If it is an attached module, all it says, it took off from here. Now, if you are operating in what they call a FRIA, FAA recognized identification area, then you can fly without remote ID. Drones without remote ID operate within visual line of sight and within the boundaries of the FRIA, and anyone can fly there, but FRIAs can only be requested by community-based organizations and educational facilities. What drone pilots must comply with the rule? All drone pilots required to register their drone must operate their aircraft in accordance with the final rule on. So just a check when operating under Part 107 and the UA weighs less than 0.55 pounds, must it meet remote ID requirements? True, because it's under Part 107. If it was operating recreationally and weighed less than 0.55 pounds, then you do not need a remote ID.
Part 89 governs all drones that are required to have a digital identity. Remote ID is a system that allows drones, or an SUAS, to broadcast identification and location information while they are flying. And it tells you certain things, for example, who I am, where I am, who's flying me, and where the pilot is located. It's giving you information on not only where the drone is located, how high the drone is, the altitude, the speed, but also where the remote pilot is located. Remote ID is a publicly broadcasted system.
How will the remote ID signals be sent? What equipment is needed to receive the signals? Standard remote ID must broadcast the remote ID information directly from the drone. The standards for how the remote ID broadcasting is left up to the manufacturer, but that rule does require that the information must be accessible with a common consumer device like a cell phone. So there are apps to check for remote ID signals. Manufacturers will use a Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or LTE, which is cell signal, from the drone that can be picked up by phones or tablets in the field. Will my current drone be able to comply with remote? So here's just what one of the many remote ID broadcast module. Understand that it has a serial number that you will need to assign to a specific drone. So it's one module per drone, because when you register your drone, if it doesn't have internal remote ID, you will have to use the serial number of the remote broadcast module. Will it be publicly available? No names, personally identifiable information other than the required location data or phone numbers will be publicly available. Remote ID message data will include either the drone registration number or an anonymous session ID. Only law enforcement will be able to associate the information in the FAA's registration database with a drone's remote ID. So it will broadcast an ID number, which is either the number of the internal of the drone serial number, if internal, or the module's serial number, if external. Currently, you do not need an internet connection. It just broadcasts locally. Thank you for your time and interest. I have listed below all Part 107 associated YouTube videos so you can complete your training task. Thank you.